Okay guys, so the first step to having that very youthful, dewy skin is actually making sure your skin is exfoliated and moisturized. I like to exfoliate with the St. Ives Fresh Skin Apricot Scrub. This stuff is really gentle, but it still gets all that dead skin off and makes sure your skin looks nice and fresh. And then I like to go in with the St. Ives Timeless Skin Callogen Elastin Moisturizer. This stuff is amazing. It actually counteracts for like wrinkles and stuff like that. So it's going to make your skin look really youthful and like bouncy and tight, which is perfect for a luminous look. Okay, so after your skin is exfoliated and moisturized, you're going to go in with your primers. And I actually do something a little bit different for my primer when I'm doing a very luminous skin look. I mix in sunscreen, regular primer, as well as a primer oil. This is going to make sure your skin looks very luminous and it's going to stay really nicely under the foundation. So for the sunscreen, I just use pretty much anything I have around right now. I have the Coppertone Sport one. It's 30 SPF, and this doesn't like irritate my skin at all. So if you're looking for a brand that's like good to wear on your face, this one's a good one. And then for just the normal primer that's actually going to help keep the foundation on longer, I do go in with the L'Oreal Magic Lumi. This stuff does have like luminous stuff in it already, so it helps with that luminosity, but it also has like a silicone-y texture, so it's going to help keep the foundation on. And then lastly, I do mix in the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer Oil. This stuff is like the ultimate product if you want luminous skin. It is an oil, so it's going to keep your skin very hydrated, very moisturized throughout the day, and I love this stuff. It does have silicone in it as well, so it's going to help prevent the foundation from moving around on your skin. If you do have extremely oily skin, I don't recommend using the oil because that's actually going to do the opposite. It's going to make that foundation slide around throughout the day. If you are oily, I would just go in with the sunscreen and the primer. But if you are dry like me, I like to mix in this because it just adds extra luminosity. Okay, so right now I'm just mixing in a little bit of sunscreen. You can see I just put a little bit. And then about the same amount of primer on top. And then I'm just going to do 1 or 2 drops of the primer oil on top. And I'm going to mix it all together on my hand. And then just spread it evenly throughout the face. And it's good with the sunscreen mixed in because we are getting into the summer months, and you're going to want to protect your skin in the sun, and this acts as a nice base. And it's going to protect your skin as well as add luminosity. A lot of people are scared to wear sunscreen on their face under their foundation because they're scared it's going to like break them out or whatever. I have had no problems with this sunscreen breaking me out or irritating my skin, and if I leave out the sunscreen, I find that my skin doesn't look near as dewy as it does when I have it mixed in with the primer. So it's definitely a nice trick to add, plus it's going to protect your skin anyway. Okay, so now that I have all that stuff blended in my face, you can already see how luminous my skin looks. It's amazing. All those 3 products together is like perfect base for the foundation. Okay, so now that I have my primers on, I am going to go in with a dewy foundation, and the one I like is the Stila Aqua Glow Serum Foundation. What I like about this stuff, it is very full coverage, but it still gives you that luminosity. A lot of foundations, when they are luminous, they're kind of a sheer to medium coverage. This one is definitely medium to buildable coverage. I get a full coverage out of it, and it still gives me that luminous look, which I really enjoy. Okay, so I just go in with about a full pump like that. And then to even add extra luminosity, I'm going to mix in a liquid illuminator with the foundation. I like the Josie Maron Argan Illuminator. This stuff is awesome. It actually has argan oil in it, so it's good for your skin as well. And it's really good mixed in with foundation. It definitely adds some extra luminosity, and it's really gorgeous on the skin. Okay, so you're just going to want to make sure this stuff is nice and mixed together, no clumps or anything like that. Then once you have it nice and mixed in, I'm just going to start dotting it around my face. Like I said, this stuff is full coverage, so you don't need too much. And you don't want to look cakey, especially with a luminous look. You just want a nice full coverage, but a thin layer of foundation. Okay, so I'm just going to start off with that amount, and then I'm going to go in. I'm using the Morphe M439 brush to blend in my foundation. This brush is really, really good. It buffs it in really fast. And you can see how well that just evens out my skin tone, but you can still see that luminosity through it. So as well as giving full coverage, you're still going to see all those primers peek through and give you that shiny, youthful look, which is what you're going for with this dewy, luminous skin. And now that I have the first layer on, I noticed there is a little bit of areas that I want a little bit more coverage, so I'm just going to put a little bit more around my nose and a little bit on my forehead. Okay, so after you have your foundation nice and blended in, you're just going to move on to your concealer. I'm just going to use my little Maybelline one. You could use whatever you want. The Urban Decay Naked Skin one is really good. It's nice and luminous, so it would go well with this look. But you can go in with whatever concealer you want. I'm just going to do this off camera because you've seen me do this a million times, so I'll be right back. Okay, so now that I have my concealer blended in, you can still see the luminosity shows through over all that coverage. I did a really nice layer of concealer because I hate my dark circles, and it still shines through, so those primers are definitely key for the luminosity. Okay, I am going to set my concealer because I don't want it to crease, but before I do that, I am going to go in with some cream products, so I'm going to save that for after the cream products, because you don't want to go in with cream over powder because it's going to move around. You always want to do powder last to set the cream products. So I'm going to wait to set my under eye while I do the cream contouring and all that stuff. Okay, so for the cream products, I am going to use this Pure Cosmetics palette. It is called the Strobe palette in Sun Kissed Glow. This palette is so gorgeous and it is perfect for giving you that luminous skin. I do use this darker color for my contour and then this one for my highlight shade. Okay, I'm going to go in with this sculpting brush from Real Techniques and I'm going to pick up that darker contour color and I'm just going to blend it in the hollows of my cheeks. So I'm starting off with just a little bit of product because you always want to go with a light hand at first because you can always build up but you can never take away. So I'm just going to start, I took it on the edge of the brush and I'm going to start pressing that into the hollows of my cheeks. And you can see how gorgeous of a contour it is. It is a very bronzy color, perfect for this time of year. And it has a luminosity to it, so it's going to contour as well as add luminosity. This is great for this look as opposed to like a matte bronzer because it's going to keep that luminous look around your entire face as opposed to adding matte products and only getting part of the luminosity. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit more. Darken it one more time and keep blending it upward. Never blend down when you're contouring, you always want to blend up. So you start with this initial line and you just keep going upward with it. I'm just, since it is a cream product, I don't want to move around my foundation, so I'm just pressing. I'm pouncing the brush over and over, I'm not swiping. Because when you swipe, you're going to move around your foundation and it's not going to look as clean. So you're just going to want to bounce your brush up and down. And this is just going to press in the product as opposed to brushing it around. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, just grabbing it on the edge of my brush and patting in that initial line and blending it upward. Isn't that gorgeous, guys? Like, I love this palette so much. It's so gorgeous. They're not super pigmented. Like, this is very different than going in with something like the Anastasia cream contour kit, where those are very, very pigmented cream products. This is just more of a strobe palette. So they're all three highlight colors, but I do use them to contour and blush and things like that. But they're not they're a little more sheer than the usual contour palettes, and that's what I like about them because they're gonna keep the look nice and natural and just like you're glowing from within. Okay, so I'm also going to contour my temple area, so I'm just taking the same cream contour shade I'm patting that around my temple area. I do contour my forehead just to make it appear a little bit smaller. And then to contour my nose, I just go in with that same contour shade with my finger. And I'm just going to press that around the sides of my nose. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with a cream blush shade, and I am using the Nars Super Orgasm Illuminator. This stuff is gorgeous. It is a nice like peachy color, so I'm going to use that as my blush. And I'm just going in with a small dot at first because this stuff is pretty pigmented. I'm just going to pat this around the apples of my cheeks. This probably would be a highlighter on a lot of people, but it's pretty dark for me, so I still use it as a blush. But it's a nice base for the powder blush that I'm going to go in with later. I'm just going to focus it around the apples of my cheeks. And again, I'm just picking my finger up and down and not pressing it or not rubbing it into my skin because that's going to move around the foundation. And then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side. Just adding a little bit of product and blending it around the apples of my cheeks. Okay, last thing for the cream products, I'm going in with a highlight shade, and I am going to take the lightest shade in this strobing palette, and I'm just going to use my finger and apply that into the tops of my cheekbones, down my nose, and a little bit in my cupid's bow. So again, just patting up and down. And same thing on the other side. I like to go in with my finger with this shade because I feel like it gives it the most pigment as opposed to going with a brush. Alright, then down the center of my nose. And then a little bit in my cupid's bow. Okay, so now that we have our cream products on, we're going to start setting them with powder products to make sure they stay all day and not move around on the skin, because if you just leave cream products on your skin without setting them, it's most likely going to move around on your skin throughout the day. Even with dry skin, I know if I didn't set this, it would be all over my face at the end of the day, so I am going to want to go in and set it all with powder products. Okay, so just to set my under eye concealer, I'm going to go in with this beige highlight from my Loreal contour kit. This thing is awesome. You've probably seen me use it in a lot of videos. I definitely recommend it. It's really good, and I love these like just setting powders. They make sure my concealer doesn't move around at all throughout the day. I am using the Sigma F35 brush to set my under eye concealer. And also when you're setting your under eye concealer, you're going to want to make sure you're just doing it right directly under your eye. You're not going to want to bring it down here because that's just going to take away the luminosity that we put on the tops of that cheekbone. If you're dry, you can get away with not setting your entire face, but if you do have oily skin and you need to set your entire foundation with powder, but you also want to keep a luminous look, I recommend using a very subtle highlight as a foundation powder. This is going to make sure your face is set and your oil isn't going to shine through, but you're going to keep that luminosity. But make sure the highlight you're using is very subtle. You don't want to add too much all over your face or else you're going to look a little bit crazy. But this Laura Mercier one, let's see what's it called. This is the Laura Mercier Matte Radiance Baked Powder. This stuff is very sheer. It's not going to add too much pigment, but it is going to set your face but keep that luminosity within your foundation. Okay, so now I'm going to start setting the cream bronzer that we put on, and I am going to use this Bobbi Brown Shimmer Brick in Bronze. I love this stuff. I use this year-round just to like really bronze up my skin, but I especially love it this time of year. It is just super gorgeous on top of this cream product because it's going to be a powder product, and it's going to keep the bronzer on all day, but it is going to keep the luminosity because they're all shimmery shades in this little brick. And to set my contour, I am going to go in with this large powder brush, the F30 from Sigma. It's just going to give like an all-over bronze, and it's going to look really pretty for the luminous look. So I'm just going to blend up and down on top of that contour. And you can see that still keeps that luminosity, but it is setting all the cream products. And same thing on the other side, just blending up and down. And then I'm going to set my forehead contour. And then I'm just going to add like the slightest bit on the sides of my nose. Okay, now that our contour is set, I am going to set the cream blush that we have on. And I am going to use this Milani blush in Luminoso. This blush is like everyone's cult favorite. You've probably heard of this before. It's just the most gorgeous peachy blush. It's perfect for this time of year. And it does have a little bit of sheen to it, so it's going to keep that luminosity while still setting the cream product. And to apply the blush, I am using this Morphe E4 brush. Okay, so I'm just going to turn my brush sideways like this. And just pat it around the apples of my cheeks and then kind of drag it upward. And same thing on the other side, just focus it on the apples and then kind of drag it upward. Oh, that blush is so gorgeous. Okay, so now that we have our blush set, the last step is the highlight, my favorite part. And of course I'm using none less than this Becca highlight in Champagne Pop. If you're looking for like the most glow, Becca products are the way to go. Any shade of their pressed highlighters is great for like insane highlight. So I'm going to use this Wet n Wild brush to apply my highlight. I'm not sure which one this is. I want to say it's their contour brush, but honestly I have no idea. They don't write like which brush it is on the packaging, which is super annoying. But these brushes are really good. I have a lot of their eyeshadow brushes as well, but I'm really liking this one for my highlight. It is just like a little like thick fan brush. So if you find this brush in a drugstore, make sure to pick it up because it's really good with highlight. Okay, so I'm taking Champagne Pop on the edge of the brush and I'm just applying this to the tops of my cheekbones and dragging it down towards the front right here. Yeah, it's intense. Okay, and then I'm just going to do the same thing on the other side, dragging it forward. And I'm just applying a little bit on my nose and on my little nose tip right here. And then I'm going to apply it on my cupid's bow, a little bit on my chin, and then like above my eyebrows on my forehead over here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of my makeup and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so I finished the rest of my makeup. I just did my brows, a little bit of shadow on my lower lash line, and then some lipstick. This is Smashbox Pinch Me, by the way, if you're wondering. But you can see how luminous my skin is. Like, it is glowing everywhere. And if you do all these steps, you will achieve this super dewy luminous look. But if you're not into that like extreme luminous and you just want a little bit, you feel free to mix and match these steps. You know, you can leave out like the primer oil or mixing in like a luminer or mixing in a luminizer with the foundation. Little things like that are just going to tone it down a little bit but still give you a luminous look. My recommendation is always using sunscreen mixed into your primer. That is just for me like my top trick for achieving this luminous look. And then also using the cream products, this little strobing palette is perfect because you have it all together. But yeah, like I said, feel free to mix and match the tips and tricks I gave you today. Don't feel like you have to do it all. And also don't feel like you need like all these. If I use some high-end products, don't feel like you need to have all that. There's plenty of things at the drugstore. I have right here this Revlon Photo Ready Skin Lights. This is like a very good dupe for this Josie Maron illuminator. They work really well as mixing it in with your foundation, but you could also use something like this as the cream highlight instead of, you know, buying this palette. And instead of buying like this primer oil, because this is on the pricey side, you can just use like argan oil you can find at the drugstore and things like that, and mix that in with your foundation as a primer. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the last and final step for this makeup look, and it is setting sprays. I do mix in the MAC Fix Plus and this NYX Dewy Setting Spray. I feel like the two of them together is the perfect way to set this very luminous look. The MAC Fix Plus is really going to melt all the products together on your face to make it look nice and smooth. And then this NYX Dewy Setting Spray is great to like really set your makeup, keep it on as long as possible. And I like this the most because with this type of look, I do like feel my foundation because it's never completely set on my face, and I can't stand like feeling my foundation on my face. If you know what I'm talking about, it's like the most annoying thing. Like if you feel like if you touch it, it's gonna like come off on your fingers. This stuff like makes it like into your skin. Like it's still gonna keep the luminosity because it is a dewy setting spray, but it's going to make it to where your foundation just like sucks into your skin and you're not gonna feel like it's gonna rub off as soon as you touch your skin. So yes, I do like to mix these two together for the perfect setting spray. It's going to make sure this luminous look lasts as long as possible and it looks nice and smooth. Alright guys, so now my face is nice and set and it's ready to go for the whole day. I'm absolutely obsessed with this look. I think it's so nice and fresh for this time of year. It definitely makes you look nice and youthful, and it makes your skin look very healthy and moisturized and hydrated and everything like that. Like I said, you don't need all these steps, but that is like everything I do to achieve like the most luminosity, the most dewiness. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm always glad to share my little tips and tricks for makeup and things like that. And I think that's all I have for you, so I'll see you in my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later guys. Bye!